Hi, and welcome to our World of Wonders. This is part two of our Cobourg abandoned house. So let's get right into it. The first shot of the house that we've got looks pretty overgrown, as you can see. Looks pretty boarded up. We noticed there was something down in the right-hand corner. So as we got closer to see what it was, we could see that it was the front stoop. So here's the front stoop. You can see the cement block that I'm assuming was where the front door was. You can see behind it's been boarded up really quite well. And in the next photograph, we got in behind some of those bushes. You can see that there's graffiti above what we're assuming is the front door. Quite dangerous in here. You didn't want to be stepping in there too close because it's all falling apart, and there's probably a lot of ticks in there right now because it's very overgrown. So here's a picture above the front part of the house there where they've really taken their time to board up everything, which is quite obvious. So we made our way through a bunch of bushes and trees, getting smacked in the face as we went, and we came round to the side of the house. You can see how long the grass is, and obviously there's been something walking through the grass ahead of us. There was sort of a bit of a trail. This is the little garage or side house workshop, whatever it was that was down in behind. And we've got quite a few photographs along the side of the house here. And you can see still everything's boarded up. You can see graffiti again near the top here. And again, the next photograph shows an upper window that's completely boarded up, and below lots and lots of graffiti along this side of the house. And in the next photograph, you can see uh, again, we out here at some point in one of them, it does say 2015. So we know that sometime in the spring before we got there, there was obviously teenagers hanging out in this particular area. This next photograph is a picture of an old hook just on the edge of the house that I just really liked. I was trying to figure out just what it would have held up. It was quite a massive hook. Like, was it flowers or wind chimes or something that was obviously substantial weight because it was up very high. But this is just a massive old hook, and I liked the way it looked. The next photograph is to the cellar, possibly a root cellar, some old dugout basement, but you definitely had to go outside to get down in there. The steps and things were disintegrated quite a bit, so we weren't about to try to even go down to check and see if the door was open or not. So as we rounded the corner, we saw that the back door was completely gone. We were pretty excited about that. So we got a little closer to look in. That little back room was pretty ripped apart and things were all over the place. We were stepping just into the little back building with 1 foot because we weren't really sure exactly what we were going to find. There was quite a distinct smell coming from the house. Now, I would like to draw your attention to the doorway into the next room where you can see bits of what soon were ceiling and plaster. But if you look, it's difficult to see in this photograph, but the floor is on like at least a 45-degree angle aiming down towards into the basement. We did try to get some photographs where you could see better, but it was very dark in there. We tried a bunch of ways to get light into there without stepping on this little back room door. But the closer we took steps in, the smell was really horrific. It wasn't just a musty smell. It wasn't just like a feces type of smell, like perhaps raccoons or something were in there. It was just a really bad smell. And we didn't dare try to step in very far because myself, I definitely would have fallen through the floor. And even Charlotte was saying there's no way she would have gone in there. Like, you could have work boots and all sorts of helmets and equipment on, but that floor would not have held anybody. And the only reason I felt safe enough to get in as close as I did was that paneling was across the floor. I figured that would be extra support if the floor was really bad underneath. We did take many, many photographs in this particular room thinking we might get some orbs or something unusual, but we simply did not. So we've swung around and we're drawing our attention to the little garage work shed. I still think it was more of a workshop, perhaps, as Charlotte was saying. I was drawn to the little rectangular shaped hole on the roof of the shed, thinking that perhaps there might be something there. I took several photos, as we remind everyone, always take 2 or 3 groupings of photos every time. So if something does show up in one photograph and not the others, is it something unusual? If it shows up in all 3, then there's something obviously physically happening. And I was really interested in that hole for whatever reason, but nothing showed up. So we decided to try and walk around to the other side of the shed. So we've made our way around to the side of the building. Charlotte was to my right and slightly ahead of me, but far enough that I could get shots without her in it. Very interesting. We realized, oh, there's 2 windows that have very good looking possibility of seeing inside. So here's my close-up of the window, and it's just some kind of fencing that obviously has been moved so something could get in. As I moved closer, Charlotte decided to take several steps to try and get a picture through this window. Completely stopped dead in her tracks. Something freaked her out. She didn't know what it was. She talks about that in our first video, where we didn't know if it was an animal she was sensing or if there was a negative type of energy or just what it was, but I've never seen her do that before. She's usually right in there, runs right through, and we sense something afterwards. But this took her by surprise, and then it, of course, took me by surprise because Charlotte really never reacts that way in places that we've gone to. So this is my first photograph through the fencing. I just shoved my hand underneath and steadied my arms and took a picture. And I'm thinking, well, this is a really cool looking picture. So Charlotte's like, oh, I'm going to do that too. I think I took 2 or 3 and totally fine. Charlotte's next picture, when we saw it on her screen, the little bluish light down on the right hand side, just below center, right on the edge. She's like, I don't know if I got an orb. And as we were looking at it, we realized there was blue streaks up above, which are very plainly seen. Now, at this point, we're trying to figure out what's going on. Now, also, the other window on the left-hand side that's covered, it does look like she got a small orb. That, like, I could have blown it up for you, but it's very pale and weird, and it's kind of hard to tell. But these blue lights is what we were freaking out about. And it took us a couple of, getting it back and looking in the computer to decide exactly what it was. The large rectangle square light above that window with the green screen or green fencing is that original rectangle hole that I saw. You can see there are a lot of holes in the roof that we didn't realize at first. That is what was reflecting onto Charlotte's camera and causing the blue streaks. It's very possible that she may have moved at some point and gave it that look like it was moving. Absolutely, definitely a perfect example of light reflections, either off of the inner part of the metal part of the lens that sticks out of the camera reflecting down, with possible movement, possible not. I mean, we definitely know that they were light reflections. She only got that blue light in one picture, so we absolutely know what it was. Made a really cool looking photograph, but that's all it was light reflections. So this is a picture that I turned my camera, instead of straight in, I turned it to my right hand side, and noticed I've got a large orb in the upper part of the roof section. And if you look really, really carefully, there's at least 7 possible orbs in this particular photograph. And if you look above the white box directly up on the shortest little rafter that you can see. There's a really weird spirally white something or other that looks like it's moving, which I'm telling Charlotte, "Oh, I've got this." Well, she took a photograph directly straight ahead, and this is her photograph. And I thought it looked a lot like the orb that was in the roof above. Now, for it to have moved from there to this position, it had to be moving a lot faster than dust can travel. When I blow it up and look on the computer, the colors are the same. The consistency of the orb is very similar. Is it the same one? We can't say yes, it is. Very similar. So we're thinking, okay, how did it move that fast? I also took several photographs, of course, in that same position. Now, I obviously moved because things are a little blurry. And if you'll notice above the box on that short beam, you do see a white reflective something. This particular orb I can't really get a really good look at because it's blurry. So, but I do want to point out that little piece of light. In the next photograph, much clearer, I was steadying my arms, and you can see once again in the exact spot where we found that spirally weird light, there's a light. So there is obviously a hole in the roof or something that the camera is reflecting upon. Now, I also want you to note there is no orbs in this particular photograph. These were taken in a succession, very close together, within seconds of each other. If there was a lot of dust, and a lot of people will say barns are full of dust or old buildings, that's true. But it's also true that I should have gotten dust in every single photograph, which I didn't. So that in itself is unusual. This is just a random roof shot because I was trying to figure out, was it an orb? Did they move somewhere? This is just, I took 2 or 3 of these. No dust, no reflections. So what's the conclusion? Is there something unusual going on here? I really think there is something unusual going on in this particular back shed. Speaking of something unusual, my son just pointed something out to me. Out from the box, you can see the little round, very bright hole. I think it's for wiring or something. Now, just perhaps an inch over, slightly up center, there's a very faint orb, which may not render very well, but it is there, that we just noticed after me saying, oh, there's nothing. So in the next photograph, if you go to that little white light and look to the left lower center, you can see where it has actually moved a centimeter or more up, which in itself is a very unusual thing. Dust can move up, obviously, but normally, unless there's wind or a draft, will float down. So this is another one of those little things that we've just refound. Interesting, yes. Definitely a curious little building, to be sure. So we decided, after spending most of our time in the little shed, that it was time. We've taken as many photographs as we thought we could do, and plus we were going to another house that night. So we turned around and took a picture of the back of the house. And again, just so you can see how long and overgrown it is back here. And I took a parting picture of Charlotte taking pictures of the back, and you can see, like, it's right up almost to her hips, and this area was trampled down where we were. Very interesting house. Would never think twice about going into the house. Very bad. We did have an unusual feeling at the back workshop. We got some interesting photos. Had a great day out. I hope you enjoyed what we found. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Our World of Wonders, and we'd like to leave you asking a question, as we always do. What makes you say, wow?